Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference specials in the Mind Explorations group on Facebook for hypnotherapy and NLP. Today we don't have hypnotherapy or NLP on really. It is called Havening, and I've got Stephen Travers here, who is also going to be speaking at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, and he's going to show us and tell us, and show us with a group demo what Havening is all about. Here's for you, Stephen Travers. Hi, welcome, Stephen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, so am I. Both this live and the hypnotherapy conference in Dublin on the 5th and 6th of April. So, Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself? How long have you been in the business? What have you been doing with Havening, or how long have you been working with Havening? And where are you based as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've been a hypnotherapist for 20 years, primarily based in Dublin. But since I think for all of us experienced when COVID happened, everything went online. So we do a huge amount of online work these days and trainings. Mm-hmm. I primarily specialize in anxiety-based disorders and trauma work. And I'm one of these, I suppose, people, I'm very curious and I love learning. I'm sure like a lot of you. So I've done many different modalities, been down many various rabbit holes over the last couple of decades. And I have a very practical philosophy towards therapy. I'm always looking for the most effective treatments or modalities that get the best results for my clients. That's always been my approach. I'm a very results-oriented person. So I'm never really tied to a modality. I always think of, well, what works best? And that's always been my approach. And that's part of the philosophy that I like to impart to therapists across the board as well.
So, okay, we do know that hypnotherapy, we all are hypnotherapists, we do know that hypnotherapy is extremely powerful already. So what made you focus on Havening as apparently even more powerful?
Yeah, so going back to 2012, as I said, I'm always on the lookout for different modalities and treatments that can give me an edge or an advantage to help my clients. And I was reading this interview with Paul McKenna back then, 2012, and McKenna said that there was this new groundbreaking therapy coming out soon that he believed was going to change the face of therapy across the world. And I have to say, that was, for me, really a big, bold, brash statement. I know Paul from doing trainings with him, etc. And I decided to go off and do some research. And at the time, there was no Havening trainings. This was at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But there was a book called When the Past is Always Present by Dr. Ronald Rudin that was just published. So I got my hands on that book. And it's a very academic book in terms of the neuroscience and the research it goes into in how trauma becomes encoded in the limbic system and the amygdala, and how sensory touch can depotentiate it, which means delink or remove the emotional and somatic components of the trauma within just minutes. Mm-hmm. So I was very impressed when I read the book in terms of the neuroscience behind it, and of course the promise of what Havening could do. So I contacted the doctors in New York, and I jumped on to one of the very first trainings, and I've been using Havening ever since, simply because I was blown away by the results I was getting. Practically every session I was doing was extraordinary and remarkable. In terms of, I was working with people with serious complex trauma, huge issues, and within the space of minutes, like magic, it was disappearing and clearing. And the client could really see and feel it in their body and nervous system, because we would do something called clinical debriefs. So when we take a huge trauma and clear it with Havening, we actually debrief it, where we bring them back to the memory or memories to really make sure that the emotional and somatic components are delinked. Even the cognitive component, the memory completely switches as well. We often find the memory seems more distant, blurry, further away, or the client can't access it the way they used to. It's so effective that we can actually really say to clients, do your absolute best to bring the trauma or the distress back. And when we have amygdala depotentiation done successfully, it's impossible because the neural pathway that was firing that fight, flight, freeze, or distressing reaction is completely disrupted or delinked.
So how does that work in a neuroscientific way? So you delink that neural pathway within minutes. Is that correct?
Yes.
And okay, can you explain a little bit about the workings inside the brain?
Yeah, it's to appreciate how Havening works, it's important to look at the neurobiology of trauma and how trauma becomes encoded in the brain and body. Like there's four different requirements we look for. The main two are a distressing event and a sense of inescapable stress. And when someone has at least those two things, it's generally four, but we'll just take those two to keep it simple. There's a high increase in something called a gamma wave.
Yeah.
And there's a release of cortisol and adrenaline in the brain and nervous system. And something called AMPA receptors, as someone's going through that distressing experience, getting coded on a part of the brain called the lateral amygdala on the neurons there. And those receptors download during that distressing experience everything the client's seeing, hearing, emotionally and physically feeling into their nervous system. There's an encoding actually happening. And if something reminds that person of that event or events afterwards, any stimuli or cues comes into their senses. So it could be something that they see or smell, something that feels the same. It has the potential to fire off the amygdala because the amygdala now sees that as a threat. So as Havening practitioners, depending on the issue, we often go looking for these encoding moments to pinpoint, identify where those AMPA receptors got encoded. Then we activate the memory or memories. And once that's activated, something called a phosphate molecule is exposed on the neurons, on the AMPA receptors. When we start applying Havening, something called delta waves are produced in the brain through the sensory touch. Delta waves occur in slow wave sleep. They register about 0.5 to 2 hertz per cycle per second. And what the delta waves do is they go inside the neurons where the AMPA receptors are, where the encoding is. This is like where the trauma is neurobiologically. And as they enter these electrical brain waves, they create a chemical called calcineurin, which dephosphorylates. It removes the phosphate molecule off that's holding those receptors stuck there. And once that phosphate molecule is removed, those receptors disappear and are recycled back into the neuron. And that pathway is now disrupted. It's like it's switched off. That neural pathway is not firing that electrochemical signal anymore. And this happens within minutes because the brain is an electrochemical organ.
Right. Okay. So we don't need to go to therapy for 10 weeks or 12 sessions, but you can work on each experience though one time. Is that correct, or do you need sometimes several sessions to depotentiate?
It depends. It always depends on the client's presenting problem. Like some people, as we all know, as therapists, some people come in and it's like, you know, their life's pretty good, they're functioning very well, but there's one or two issues. And yes, you can get results, you know, in terms of therapy could be quite short term. Like I tend to do at least 4 sessions with people. Sometimes I may do more if there's complex or developmental trauma. And Havening is not just about resolving or clearing trauma. It's also about building up emotional resiliency within someone and give people the bandwidth and the capacity to move forward in their lives in a more productive, positive way. So there's that side of it. It's called post-traumatic growth work that we do with people, and we train therapists how to do.
So with Haven, would you do that with Havening again, the emotional resiliency?
Yes, there's at least a half a dozen different havening techniques. Three of them are really around doing the trauma work. And then another three of them are around more so the post-traumatic growth work, building up resiliency, confidence, goal setting, new behavioral change. There's other creative things we can do with havening. Like for me, havening as well, why I'm such an advocate of it, for me, it's like in the type of advanced hypnosis in terms of how it can access the unconscious mind body. It actually alters someone's state. Like it's producing this high amplitude of delta, and it increases oxytocin, serotonin, and something called GABA that makes you feel sleepy and relaxed. So people are actually going into trance-like states as we're applying havening. And we can plant positive ideas and suggestions and visualizations as we're doing it. It's also very good for bringing up unconscious, unresolved memories, pathological emotions like unresolved anger, rage, guilt, shame, physiological feelings in the body, and bring them into the client's conscious awareness, while simultaneously producing depotentiation because of the delta wave effect.
Can I ask how you would do that? Because you in the one way that you do it, you go back to a memory, you let the client think about it, and then you do the havening.
Sure.
How would you let the rest come up?
We can do havening completely content-free. For example, we do something called transpirational havening. So sometimes you come across clients with anger issues or unresolved feelings of guilt or shame, or that feeling of not good enough. I think we all come across that with clients. So we can get people to think of that feeling or something that triggers it or a memory, and we actually ask them to chant out the emotion as it starts to come up, as they're being havened or they're havening themselves. As they start chanting it, what often happens is other memories where that emotion is still tagged to will start coming up from their unconscious into their conscious awareness.
Right. So it's
like it draws forth those memories that are suppressed or maybe even repressed, or they're not consciously aware of or haven't thought about for decades, coming to their awareness.
So it would be kind of like an effect bridge.
Similar, yeah. It's like a hypnotic regression on steroids, you could say. And but the beauty for me is that there's actual depotentiation occurring. So as the client's chanting it out, it's clearing, it's shifting, and one of the ways we know that's working is that the client's voice starts to calm down, and they get to the point where they're saying nothing. Then we can do a debrief afterwards on all the memories and emotions that came up, and we'll find that when it's successful, it's completely and permanently clear, though that the emotional charge is completely gone.
So if I'm a client, I will still be able to remember the memory, but it's completely disconnected from any of the feelings I had about it before. It's completely neutralized.
It's completely neutralized. And like when someone has a traumatic memory, there's four components. There's the cognitive component. So that's actually, what to see, what to saw, or what to heard. They can be triggers. There's the autonomic components: heart rate, blood pressure, sweating, breathing rate. There's the somatosensory component: tingling in the skin, pain. Havening can work brilliantly, by the way, in chronic pain if it's caused by trauma. And there's the emotional component: the anxiety, the fear, the anger, the shame, the guilt. All of those components get encoded in those AMPA receptors in the lateral amygdala. So when we depotentiate or clear it with havening, we're clearing all of those components associated to the trauma or any stimuli or cues that were triggering off those sensations or feelings.
Wow. So you work a lot with trauma, obviously, but what else would clients come to you for? What kind of issues do you work with, or can you work with?
Well, I primarily work with uh, complex developmental trauma. That's where people have had. It's not just one event. It's like maybe they grew up in childhood. There was an alcoholic parent, or there was a lot of abuse or dysfunctionality going on. PTSD, panic attacks, phobias, all the typical things. I think a lot of us work with. I specialize in this. Addictions is something I work with quite a bit. I actually started off as a hypnotherapist. It was smoking that I did for years, and weight loss were the two main ones I did. But as I gained more experience, I soon realized that a lot of addictions are, once again, it's a consequence of unresolved trauma and anxiety. And as we know, people are self-medicating. So you're often going back to the trauma stuff again to help really get a great result with the addiction and to prevent relapse and positive behaviors and mindsets and self-image, etc. Like I find most things over my 20 years experience I work with are caused by trauma or cause trauma to some degree.
Right.
So I think we all, like a lot of presenting problems, there's at least a component of a trauma that's there if you know what to look for. That's the thing. It's knowing what to look for as well.
Okay, so you've given me a cue there. If you know what to look for, what do you need to look for?
Well, to simplify it one way, when we do like a bit of a history intake where we're looking for something called Emily, that's the model based on how trauma gets encoded. So we're looking for an event, an escapability, something called meaning and landscape. So we're actually asking the client questions. I even do this in my phone consultation, and I can often pinpoint a trauma on my initial phone consultation before I even book the client in, like someone's just inquiring.
Yeah.
And I suppose a simple way to check trauma for everyone here listening is if someone closes their eyes, for example, and thinks of a memory or an event or a series of events, if they associate back into it, if it brings up an emotional charge, especially if it's like on the SUD scale, if it's a 6 or higher, we would class that's like an encoding moment. That the trauma, it's high. There's ample receptors there. So that's one of the simple ways of checking things.
Yeah.
So that's why in Havening, we're very thorough. We do like these debriefs where we really go back and check that the landscape of the brain and the client's past history, that everything's clear. There's no more emotional charges. Because I know a lot of therapists work content free, and that's absolutely fine. But what I've really discovered and value over the years from using Havening is that debriefing process and knowing what to look for. Because if you don't know what to look for, how can you see it or find it? That's another thing. Like I've worked with clients, which I'm sure we all have, where they've spent months or years in therapy and loads of trauma coming up, but the clinician they're working with is not spotting it, or they're not necessarily seeing it sometimes. And then even if they are, they don't necessarily have an intervention to go in and actually shift it.
Yeah, that's true. That does sometimes happen. But how long would be the longest that you've ever worked with one client on their issues?
Like sometimes I work with people over the course. Like at the moment, I'm working with someone. It's probably my most complex case ever. About 6 months. And it's very, very complex.
And weekly sessions or?
Not well. Sometimes three weeks to a month.
Right.
Yeah.
That's that you do get those.
But we still did give you a session at the start, and we're making really great progress. But it's very complex. It's a somatic issue that's going on within the body. It's somatization disorders. That there's a lot of physical lab reactions, and this person has done like tons of different therapies as well. Some of them have really helped also, but it's complex. But we're making progress. But typically, four sessions. 7 sessions max. It really depends on what the presenting problems are, and then sometimes working on more than one issue as well.
Yeah. Of course, that's clear. We have a question here, and guys, if you have questions live, just put them in the chat. I'll read this one out. Andrea says, "Can the Havening technique also be used for chronic pain? Because she primarily works with clients dealing with physical pain." Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Once again, like for example, I've worked with clients over the years who've been in accidents. Like I remember working with a lady one day, and we had in a car accident. I wasn't working with pain, but there was a trauma there around an accident she'd had previous years before. And after I did the Havening, when we were doing the debrief, she was like, my shoulder, suddenly she could lift her arm up, she goes completely loose and free now. And that tension that was there is completely gone. And it had gotten encoded through the car accident, and she'd been doing tons of physio from it. And that just completely cleared. So the somatic component or somatosensory component delinked. So sometimes there are specific events that are traumatic events where the pain gets encoded, and then some stimuli or cue triggers off the pain as future down the line for a client. If you can find the memory or the event where that pain got encoded and haven it, the pain can disappear simultaneously within minutes. If it's neurobiological in nature, if it's actually trauma pain as opposed to real physical pain.
So have you found any modality that's similarly powerful, or that you like to use in conjunction with Havening?
I combine Havening and hypnosis quite a bit. So when I'm doing Havening touch with people, I'm doing like visualization techniques, layering in positive suggestions, ideas, metaphors. I'm using hypnotic regression language sometimes when I'm bringing them back to check memories or emotions. Then I may do future pacing timeline work with them. So there's lots of creative things we can do with it. What we've found is that the Havening touch can actually amplify a lot of the hypnotic suggestions and visualizations. It's got to do with memory consolidation when you sleep. So I've often found when I do a Havening touch with someone in a visualization or put in some suggestions, I find the stick better with the Havening. And a lot of hypnotherapists we've trained in it across the world report the same. But there's neuroscience to support why that's the case. It's got to do with delta wave production when you're sleeping and how memories and information consolidates in memory. It's fascinating.
So it would be like the feeling of well-being that they're having during the session, or would you the delta waves, because you are stroking on the arms, you get a feeling.
Yeah, the word haven comes from the word safe place, a safe haven. Like the scientific name's amygdala depotentiation. So havening stuck. It all goes back to this idea when we're born as babies. When the baby first comes out, it cries. It's Mother Nature. Don't abandon me. Oxytocin is produced in the mother's brain. Give me my baby. And when the baby's first put into its mother's arms and held, it knows it's safe.
Yeah.
And that's hardwired into all of us from the moment we're born. So there's that extra sensory component with the touch that produces this feeling of safety. But neuroscientifically, it's producing the Havening touch. See, every time there's an electrical change in the brain, there's simultaneously a chemical change. So delta is the slowest brain waves, 0.5 to 2 hertz. When you put people on electrodes and look at the EEG machines. So there's this high increase of oxytocin, serotonin, and GABA. So heart rate slowing down, the whole nervous system's calming down and relaxing. And that's why it's a really nice place to use some hypnotic work as well. Because people they're much more suggestible and susceptible, you could say, when they're feeling safe. And you've got and so that's why I use the hypnosis quite a bit at times with the Havening.
Yeah. So would you be able to also do like peak performance or improvement in performance?
Yeah, so what we do is, like, I work quite a bit with people who want to do public speaking and presentations, like confidence issues. Like, a lot of people contact me with confidence issues, which are often anxiety issues.
Right, yeah, okay.
It's often funny, guys contact me and go, it's confidence issues, and it's like, no, it's actually really, it's an anxiety or stress issue. So yeah, with often, for example, like, we often talk about havening at the bad stuff and havening in the good stuff. So I would first of all find, where, if it's a really bad fear, find out where that got encoded. It's
Yeah,
often through school or a bad experience when they were doing some sort of speaking. Sometimes there's vicarious traumatization, or it doesn't actually happen to an individual. Someone witnesses something or hears something, even a story, and it traumatizes them. So it's not, trauma is not always first hand. It could be second or third hand. So we'd depotentiate, clear that, and then we would, for example, with the performance, we get them to visualize them performing, speaking confidently, as the body posture, their voice sounding more clear, seeing it going really well, visualize it as they're havening, and then step into it. We call that future outcome havening. And what we're doing is that feeling of safety and calmness, you're also anchoring that in to that as well, and that association, and you're actually creating a new neural pathway through doing that as well. So it's giving that very felt sense of safety as the step in from the touch also.
right. If you guys have any questions, ask them now, because otherwise we're going to continue to the group demo, because I am very curious how this works now, how this actually works in person now, in practical ways.
Yeah, before we do the demo, and people are more than welcome to unmic if they wish. What questions do we have?
I would like to know, do you, when you're in a setting with a client, do you touch them or do they touch themselves? I've seen both, but I was just wondering what you do.
Yeah, great, Andrea. Yeah, great question, Andrea. Yeah, you can do both. Like, my first, I suppose, decade or so of havening, I was doing it a huge amount to people. Then when COVID came, everything went online. So we, like most therapists, well, people in our community, there's over 2,000 of them, do a huge amount of online work. So it works equally as well. In some ways, it works almost better when someone's doing it themselves, because they're learning how to do it, where the healing is in their hands. It's quite self-empowering. And we actually teach them how to use various havening techniques moving forward after the sessions, in terms of general stress control and from maintaining and building upon their resilience. So the answer is both. Yeah, so you can do it both ways.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
And Tina has a question. Do you want to unmute?
Yes. When you
Hi,
are
Tina.
Hi, Stephen. When you are talking about havening, I'm thinking about EFT, the tapping.
Sure.
Is there something similar to that, or is it very different?
Yeah, so the story goes, I suppose, the quick summary of the story, how havening all began back in 2001. Paul McKenna was in New York, and he knows Dr. Rudin. They did some TV thing together over there decades ago, and they were walking through Central Park one day, and Paul was at the time studying TFT, thought field therapy, the original with Dr. Roger Callahan. And Ron Rudin, he's now retired. He's a like Harvard University academic, neuroscientific researcher. He's got the largest medical practice in New York. And Paul was talking to him how this tapping, he was doing this tapping stuff, and he was getting these amazing results with people. And Ron, being a neuroscientific researcher, was like, he was just skeptical. He was like, how could this work? So he got the book Tapping the Healer Within. by Dr. Callahan. He started doing some tapping sequences or algorithms with his patients, and yeah, lo and behold, it was working. And that's really what set him off to do a deep dive and to look at the research, which was very little of at the time, behind how things like tapping would work. And he actually spent a decade then looking at the neurobiology of touch and how that actually changes what's happening in the brain, which led to the development of the Havening techniques. He looked at EMDR as well. And he looked at different things like massage, Swedish massage, holistic massage. And I suppose the way I look at it is, because I've trained in EFT and TFT, I'm certified in both. I used to use a lot of TFT before I did Havening. And Havening is really the latest evolution of those psychosensory therapies in terms of the neuroscience behind it and I suppose remarkable results it produces. Like, we have a huge amount of people who are tappers and EMDR practitioners across the world in our community. So yeah, that's how it actually all started. It was through looking at tapping.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's lots of thank yous already coming in. Some people have to leave, but are interested in your training. Fiona said she would get in touch with you personally, directly. But we do, of course, as usual, provide you with all the links to Stephen's website, courses, offers, and trainings. So, Stephen, do you normally do online courses, or do you do like recorded courses, or do you do trainings? How do you normally work?
We do the training live online. It's the official 2-day international certified Havening practitioner training. The next one's on the 10th and the 11th of May. It's a very practical, interactive training where I do live demos each day, 2 of them. Then people go into breakout rooms of 3, where one person's the Havener, one person is the Havenee, and one person observes. I also have a team of 15 certified Havening practitioners and facilitators. These are all very experienced therapists in their own right, and one of them sits in each breakout room. And then we come back to a bit of a Q&A, and we cover all the neuroscience as well. So that's 2 days of that we do. And then there's a certification process afterwards, where there's 30 case studies, 2 videos, and an online science review. And I act as your mentor during that. Yeah, so that's, I suppose, a summary of how the training works.
Well, I did actually speak to somebody, I can't remember who it was now, who did your training and who said it was one of the best trainings he's done, and the most researched one, I think, with the most science in it. With you know, he explained all the neuro science to me back.
Yeah, sure.
In the meantime, I've forgotten again because I didn't use it, but
sure. The neuroscience is like, I know a lot of therapists, when they come to it, like, they look at the neuroscience sometimes, and they're almost a little bit afraid of it, because there's a lot of neuroscientific jargon and language. But we do break it down. We do simplify it. But it's very empowering when you know this stuff. You can really see things that other people sometimes just can't see because of that knowledge. But once again, the difference is when you then are able to identify and pinpoint issues, you can do something about it with the Havening. But the training itself is very practical, because we do give you a primer, a manual, and we give you a 7-hour video training to review after it as well. The whole idea behind the training is that you start using it right afterwards with your own clients.
Right.
That's what we want.
Sounds really good. So, so Stephen will give me all his links after the session. Anyone have any more questions? Anything? Yeah, Andrea's got her hand up again. Go ahead.
Sorry. I've used Havening with some clients dealing with anxiety. If I take the course, would that be the only way to officially mention it on my website? Because I thought there were some regulations. If you're only allowed to mention that you do Havening with clients when you, I don't know, there was something about it. So
sure.
I don't mention it on my website just to be safe, but
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Havening's a registered trademark. Like, yeah, anyone using Havening, like, yeah, ideally we want people to be certified just to protect the brand, the name of Havening. So yeah, like officially, yeah, you have to be certified to start marketing Havening and to put it on your website, etc. Like I know lots of therapists have used it, they've seen things and they've touched upon that upon some of them have done it, like just one of the techniques and got like amazing results with it. Um, so that's your question. Yeah, you need to do the training if you want to be, I suppose, officially recognized, because we give you the cert. You then get access to the logos and you become part of our community as well. So, and then there's so much more. You're probably doing a bit of event havening, I imagine.
Self-havening and with the pictures, and I've done some techniques with somebody who did the course and they showed them to me. So yeah, it's fun. I like it. I use them myself as well. If I'm in a situation that was upsetting, then I go like this, and
Yeah.
it helps calm me down really quickly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The beauty behind the course as well is when you know, instead of necessarily having symptoms, sometimes when you know what's caused or where the encoding's coming from, you can get to that much quicker. And then you get this massive result, depending on the issue and the client you're working with. But then you'll often find, I'm sure, that some people you've gotten massive results with by just using what you already know. But like everything, there's nuances and the devil's in the detail as well.
Right. Shall we continue to a
Will we
group?
do, will we
I'm
do
so
the will we do
curious.
the demo?
Demo, yes, group
Okay,
demo, yes,
okay.
please. I'm dying to
Where are we for time?
learn
Yeah.
more
Okay.
about it.
So
Yeah.
this is what we're going to do. We're going to do an event havening. Once again, this is just one of the havening techniques. I don't necessarily want people bringing up huge, massive traumatic memories for this demo, because it is a group demo. I want to make sure it's just a safe space for everyone. But certainly, if there is something bothering you, a bad memory, and it is on the forefront of your mind, why not? What we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to think about something that's distressing. It could be something in your day-to-day life, something that's happened recently that's causing you a bit of worry, stress, anxiety, fear. We're going to scale it from 0 to 10, 10 being extremely distressed at the max, 0 being completely calm and relaxed. So we're going to activate the amygdala. So we'll do that for about 20 seconds. Again, activation. Then I'll say to everyone, open your eyes, clear your mind. Then we'll begin the havening touch, where we'll stroke down our arms like this. Think of like a Swedish massage. And then we're going to distract you. We're going to do distractions. What distractions do, they displace the stressful or the traumatic memory out of the working memory. So we're going to imagine walking on a beach or through a park. Think of your favorite place. We'll hum a few bars of a song. Happy birthday, row your boat, jingle bells. It's a bit of fun. Once again, it's distraction. When there's some lateral eye movement. Now, people sometimes confuse this with EMDR. It's not EMDR, it's lateral eye movement. And the reason why we do this, it produces more delta waves in your brain. And if you think about it, the old hypnotist's idea, they used to swing the watch in front of someone and your eyes would follow it. And strangely enough, people would feel a bit more relaxed or even sleepy. That's because it's producing delta. Then we're going to move to our face. When there's something called face havening, we're going to gently massage around the face, produce those delta waves. We're going to do more distraction techniques, and then we're going to do palm havening. I will be asking you after each round, just in your mind, don't go back to the memory, but I just ask you on a scale of 10 to 0, what number do you feel at? Like how much more relaxed or at ease do you feel? So just get a sense of that from your unconscious, what number comes to mind. We'll do at least 3 to 4 rounds, and then after it, we'll do a bit of a debrief very quickly, and then we can take a few more questions if people wish. We could wrap it up that way if people are happy to. So before we begin, just have a think or a feel. Is there a memory or an issue that's stressing you? Could be even a traumatic memory in your past, nothing too major, but if it's at the front of your mind, you can bring it forward if you wish, that you'd like to think about. And when you're ready, let's begin. I'd like you to close your eyes all the way down, please. And with your eyes closed, just think about that memory or those thoughts. Picture them in your mind, seeing what you'd see, hearing the sounds, noticing the energy, the feelings around it. Go to the part or the aspect that's most distressing you, that makes you feel most uncomfortable. Really picture it in your mind if you can, or the sounds, and notice the feeling both emotionally and physically. And on a scale of 0 to 10, notice how uncomfortable you feel. Then open up your eyes, look at me, and then clear your mind, please. And then let's begin the Havening touch. Let's start stroking from the top of our shoulders all the way down to the elbows. That's right. Think if you were comforting a child, or even petting a cat or a dog or your pet. And gently close your eyes and imagine walking out onto a beautiful beach or your favorite place on a sunny day. Picture a clear blue sky filled with golden sunlight. Imagine what you see or remember what you see. A beautiful landscape. Even recall or imagine the sounds and the feeling of walking in your favorite place or by a beautiful beach on the sands beside an ocean. And as you keep stroking with your eyes closed, with every step you imagine taking, count out loud from 1 to 20, with every step starting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now as you keep gently stroking, I'd like you to hum or sing a few bars of Row Your Boat with me. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Do, 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 do. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Very good, and keep gently stroking. As you do, open up your eyes, keep stroking. So just gently look at my finger, window or eye movement now. And keeping your head still, gently move your eyes laterally to the right-hand side of the room. Then gently to the left, all the way over as far as you can. Then gently to the right. Then to the left. Then to the right. Then to the left. Then gently to the right. Keep stroking. To the left. And to the right. And to the left. And to the right. Left. Right. Left. And we'll do one more all the way gently to the right. Left. And then just gently close your eyes all the way down. Keep stroking. Focus on that soothing, gentle touch. I like a Swedish massage style stroke. And without thinking of anything, just notice on a scale from 10 down to 0, where do you feel that? What number comes to mind? Then I'd like you to look at me, and let's do our second round now of havening. We're going to do some face havening. Interestingly, the face produces the highest amplitude of delta waves in the brain, 90 times more than resting state. It's a very good place to use the sensory touch on. A soothing touch with your fingertips and hands. With your eyes closed, I'd like you to count backwards with me. We're going to do a cognitive distraction. We're going to count backwards from 30 down to 0 in twos out loud. And really picture the numbers in your mind. Even put some colors in them. Starting at 30, 28, 26, 24, 22. Relaxing with every number. 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 9, or 8, let's say. 6, 4, 2, 0. Now as you keep gently stroking, let's sing or hum Twinkle Star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. As you keep stroking with your eyes closed, just keep stroking. With your eyes closed, gently move your eyes laterally to the right, then to the left, then to the right, left, right, left, right, left. Then relax your eyes completely. Keep stroking. And take in a slow, gentle breath. And without thinking of anything, just notice, where do you feel now on a scale of 10 to 0? What number comes to mind? Then I'd like you to look at me, and let's move to our palms. And this is called palm havening, where we're gently massaging the palms. There's all these receptors embedded within our skin, and we're stimulating those receptors, and they're sending the signals up through nerves that are creating this electrochemical change in the brain. That's it, gently massaging the palms. That's it. Focus primarily on the palms. That's it. Light circular stroking. Then we're going to close our eyes, and I'm going to call out some different movie stars. And I want you to picture each movie star I call out in your mind. Just picture them. I'll start off with Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Julia Roberts, Dustin Hoffman, Judi Dench, Al Pacino, Michelle Pfeiffer, Kate Winslet, putting an Irish one, Colin Farrell, Liam Neeson, John Wayne, Matt Damon, Clint Eastwood. Just keep stroking your palms. Some movies might come to your mind as well. Chris Hemsworth, Daniel Craig, Jim Carrey, Eddie Murphy, Denzel Washington, Sigourney Weaver, Bill Murray, Richard Gere, Emma Stone, Meryl Streep, Sylvester Stallone, George Clooney, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, Russell Crowe. So once again, very distracting. Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. I'm sure most of us watched that at Christmas. Penelope Cruz, Roger Moore, and Charlie Chaplin. Keep stroking. Then I'd like you to hum or sing Happy Birthday. It's my birthday recently, so we'll sing it for the fun of it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stephen. Happy birthday to you. I think it was your birthday as well, Astrid, if memory serves me correct.
Yeah.
Your fellow Pisces.
Yeah.
Happy, happy birthday to you. Do, 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 do. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Happy birthday to you. Just keep gently stroking the palms. Open up your eyes, look at my finger. Just keep stroking, and we're just going to move the eyes again gently, laterally to the right and to the left. Just very gently, laterally to the right, moving the eyes only, then to the left, then to the right, then to the left, then to the right, and to the left. And let's close our eyes. Let's just keep stroking the palms for a moment. And gently take in a slow, easy breath. And let's just go back to the arms for a moment and just keep gently stroking. I'm just finally going to end in a moment, but I'd just like you to think of your favorite place, maybe somewhere you've been, like a beautiful holiday location or some beautiful scenery that you've been to, or your favorite place where you love to go. Some people love going up the mountains. Some people it's by the sea. Some people it's just sitting in their garden, relaxing. Think of something peaceful, tranquil, calm. Just imagine it or remember. Make the image as big and bright. Remember the sounds and the feelings. As you do, just think of the word calm. Calm. Like I am calm. Safe. Calm. peaceful, fit, peaceful, fit, peaceful. That's it. And when you do the touch, just notice, does it feel better if you do it a bit lighter, maybe firmer? Notice what feels most comfortable and pleasing to you. Maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little bit faster. All the way down as well, through your elbows with the touch. That's it. It's like a Swedish massage style stroke. And then when you're ready, very gently, we're going to come back to the present here and now. You can begin slowing down the stroking. Whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes, take a little stretch. Yeah, so at this point, people may be experiencing various feelings. Some people may feel a bit sleepy or tired. Some people might feel quite relaxed. Some people sometimes can feel energized as well. So we can take some questions or maybe get some experiences that people had, if they wish. So would anyone like to share, maybe you had a specific memory, could be something that was stressing you. I'll give you some advice as well, or some feedback, and just explain what's actually happening, if possible. So would anyone like to share how that went for them? Does anyone have a specific memory, first of all, or issue they worked on? You don't need to talk about it either in detail, but did anyone have anything specific they worked on?
Should we try and get the feeling back as a question I'm getting?
Oh yeah, so you just want to go right in and do the debrief. Okay, let's actually do the debrief. Yeah, let's do it. I was going to do that. I was going to take a few questions first.
All right.
No, let's do the debrief and then let's come back. Yeah. So what I'd like everyone to do, just take a moment, because I know we just came out of, we were havening there for about 10 minutes. So I'd like you all, just like you to close your eyes, please. And with your eyes closed, go back to that memory or issue that you were thinking about 10 minutes ago that was creating some sort of stress or anxiety. And just check what the differences are now when you picture it and how you're actually feeling. Or we're just scanning and checking what the differences are and what's happening now. When you've done that, you can open up your eyes and we can do a little bit of sharing. So who would like to share? Anyone have any memories anyone worked on, by the way, or even something general? I see Michelle's hand gone up.
Yeah, well, I went from an 8 to a 1. Michelle, there you go.
Yeah, so my memory was turbulence in a plane, where I always feel really, really bad and nervous and sweaty, and you know the feeling. Well, might do.
Yeah, I've worked with fear of flying I think is a common one we all work with, and yeah, turbulence can often be one of the triggers or causes. Yeah.
And when I tried to get it back, it was like the plane was calm. I thought, well, that can't be right, 'cause the plane hasn't changed. But maybe there's turbulence, but I don't feel it. I don't know. Because when I look at other people around me, they don't seem to be worrying about the turbulence, like there's no turbulence at all. So maybe that's what I got back, that there it might be, but I don't feel it.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes there's 5 post-Havening outcomes that occur. One of them is sometimes there's a metaphorical change to it as well. It's represented as a metaphor, as in your case, it could be this feeling that the plane's actually calmer. But just to check in, Michelle, where were you on the scale at the start? What number did it go up to when you brought it back about 10 minutes ago?
I think I was at about 7 because I wasn't actually in the plane. And now nothing.
Yeah, well, 7 is pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the SUD score, it's high. So in the space of 10 minutes, yeah, it's gone down to 0. So excellent.
If that lasts, yeah, that's excellent. If it's just now, then
what I really love about Havening and what we teach a lot of therapists to do is how you and the client get to experience the transformation happening right in front of you through the debriefing. Because I work with like all our practitioners, we work with so many clients with severe issues, massive, and like, yeah, fear of flying can be a huge trauma for someone. It doesn't have to be child abuse or something. And something that was there so long, and sometimes they've tried so much therapy for, in the space of 10 minutes is gone, or there's a massive shift on it. You're really giving the client that remarkable experience, and they're getting to experience it within the session. And I find that really lends to the hypnosis, interestingly, because it's a great convincer in and of itself. So when I then lead on to do hypnosis, I full buy-in from the client. The client's with me the whole way. Like, I don't do inductions. I just lead right into hypnosis, and the client's with me because they're seeing and feeling results. Mm-hmm. I just thought I'd mention that. Who else would like to share? Maybe yourself, Astrid, by the way.
Yeah. Before I get Michelle on, I went from an 8 to a 1, but I've got some more results here. Somebody else fell from 4 to 0, from a 10 to a 2, and from a 7 to a 2. So those are some combined results there. And now, Shell.
Unmute.
Hi, Shell.
Hi. I had a really traumatic day when it was my mum's funeral, and my boyfriend collapsed, and he actually ended up with an ear infection, but it was flawed. We had to call the paramedics out. I didn't know whether he was having a heart attack or something terrible, because he's not one to dramatize an issue, and he was on the floor. Couldn't get up because everything was moving, like vertigo in extreme.
Yeah, the dizziness from the infection. Yeah, that's what it does. It completely offsets the balance. Yeah.
Horrible. And he got taken to hospital. So I had a choice: go to hospital with my partner, and I don't know what's happening, or go to my mum's funeral, which was already. So the trauma I felt like a 9 at the beginning of this session. Really could have cried, felt sick, what to do, and then gone through all that. And I could picture myself sat on the kitchen floor, stressed to the limit. I think that's probably one of the most stressful moments in my life. And I was struggling to bring that picture up anymore. It was almost like I couldn't access the situation, and the feelings were just, zero, really, right down.
Yeah. So you've got that's amygdala depotentiation happening right in front of our eyes, right there. So that pathway that was encoded there, that's now disrupted. So what's happening there, Shell, is the cognitive component, the picture of the memory, is now re-encoded. That's what it re-encodes in the brain. That pathway is not firing. So one of the other post-Havening outcomes is people can't access the memory the way they used to. It's like they know it happened, but the way it was like right in their face, it's not there anymore, or it's often kind of more distant or blurry or faded away. In NLP, the way we do submodality work in NLP hypnosis, this is what's fascinating. The post-Havening outcomes, when you get depotentiation, all the submodalities change in the memory often.
Like it was black, like there was something in front of the picture that I couldn't
Yeah, it's like a veil or just
Yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's the neural pathway. It's not firing anymore. That electrochemical signal, cortisol and adrenaline, that's completely and permanently gone. It creates a real neurobiological change in the brain. It's called the landscape of your brain. We talk about a vulnerable landscape and a resilient one. So you've not changed the landscape of your brain significantly because that was a huge trauma. And then the emotional component you described, and it's probably the physical feeling you felt even coming up there, all that's delinked simultaneously.
That's incredible. Thank you. Really
Yeah,
good.
and they are the typical results.
Yeah.
And that's
Amazing.
completely content free with a group of what, 10, 12 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really
In the space
impressed.
of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
7. So 7 people have shared out of us. Yeah, that's quite. I mean, I don't know what the others were doing behind their screens or whether they were.
I do want to mention as well from a marketing, because I'm like, my background originally in my 20s, I'm very big into sales and marketing psychology. I'm one of those rare therapists. I actually love it because for me, sales and marketing is actually hypnosis. But from marketing, your practice point of view, when you can get these results with people, you'll find people are more than willing to give you 5-star reviews and testimonials for your Google, for your website. And that social proof is really powerful. So I just want you to think about it that way as well. That it has that, when you get great results for people, they tend to give you great reviews. Sorry, Astrid.
Yeah, there's another one, 7 to a 2. It was a future event I really dreaded. So there's another bit of social proof for you. And Michelle would like to say something. Is that adding to that? Maybe.
If someone has any questions or wants to unmute as well, they're more than feel most welcome. Yeah.
Now, Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a question, completely, well, not completely different, but what if, or when you've had a really traumatic experience and you don't get those feelings back, does it mean it's healed?
After you do the Havening?
No, before. For example, I worked in the war zone, and one day there was chopped off heads in the house and rifles on me and really, really bad attacks. But if I think about it, I don't get those feelings back.
Yeah.
And I haven't done anything specific about it. So does it mean it's gone, it's healed, or does it mean...
Well, was it a trauma in the first place? Was that affecting you significantly? Okay. Yeah. And did you do any therapy on it before?
Not about it. No, not specifically for that, no.
Yeah.
I was just wondering when you were talking about this, actually. I'm sure it's affected me in lots of ways, but the actual, if I think about it, I don't get those horrific feelings like just thinking about sitting in a plane that's moving about.
Okay, good. Yeah, like sometimes two people can witness, I know this is not I'm going to answer your question, but I will answer it. Two people can witness the same event. And the question is, well, why does one person become traumatized and one person doesn't? And that's because they've got different landscapes, right? One has a more resilient landscape as opposed to a more vulnerable one. In your case, Michelle, if we were to really double check that, like if I was working with you one-for-one, for example, I'd really just associate you back into that memory. If we wanted to double check that it was clear of trauma, that's what we would do. But it sounds to me it is clear. The other thing is sometimes people do dissociate. That does come up quite a bit, and we can work very effectively with that with Havening, where we can draw out the trauma if there's any there. But if there's nothing there and it feels nice and calm and relaxed, happy days. It sounds like there's a resiliency there. If it's not a trauma, just from a very practical perspective, if there was a pain there and we go back now and there's no pain and it's healed, good.
Okay.
No issue.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to ask about, just really following on from Michelle, people with things like chronic pain, they may not be able to specifically think, right, okay, there's a traumatic event that's there.
Yeah.
But could it be linked to trauma? And would you be able to kind of explore that pain and find out if it is linked to a trauma? Because people that are, don't see some things as being traumatic, but maybe they're not emotionally feeling it, but it's come out somewhere else.
Yeah, sure. Linda, yeah, great question. Like chronic pain is complex. It tends to be a bit more complex than standard anxiety, for example, or even things like panic attacks. Yeah, so chronic pain can be caused, this is what we understand from all the neuroscience. There can be specific events that cause it. So there's a somatosensory component. It was caused by an actual event, and that gets encoded. It can also be caused, I'm sure you may have heard of the work with Dr. John Sarno, where unresolved negative emotions like unresolved or suppressed anger, rage, traumatic feelings that have been unresolved or suppressed, even, it shows up in the body. It's like Van der Kolk talks about the body keeps the score and the body bears the burden. So it can manifest that way. Like I work with clients who go to their dentist and the problems with their jaws and tension. I've worked with them, and then suddenly the issue's resolved, the teeth grinding, because it's their body, it's the body's bearing the burden, it's showing up that way. So, like if you're working with chronic pain, you want to make sure you're doing a medical check, that there's nothing, that they've had the checks, and that, the scans are pretty clear. The medics are kind of scratching their heads going, we can't really see anything. That all those things are indicating it's it's traumatic in its origin. It's a manifestation or a symptom of other issues.
And could you use Havening as part of a process for that, even though there may not be a specific traumatic event that they relate to?
Yeah, well, we do a history intake where we'll ask them questions. Like a lot of people are not aware of where their issues are coming from. That's our job as Havening practitioners, and that's why we teach you how to look for it. So you can see when you're asking the client questions, you can draw it out. You know what to look for. You know what to ask to find it and to pinpoint it, or to get a thread on it. Sometimes it's like looking for a thread, and you find something and you pull out it a bit, and whoa, loads of stuff comes out. So there's that aspect. Like I've had clients tell me over the years, I've no trauma. You probably all hear that. Then 5 minutes later, close your eyes, bring up something, they're at a 10 on the scale. Or they say something like, I talked about that in therapy before. I don't think that's really an issue. Okay, let's check. Close your eyes. Let's go back and associate. And I found so many times there's still a significant emotional charge, and they're often surprised at how strong it is. They've gotten very good at kind of putting it like that. They can talk about it, or they know how to dissociate, but it's still there. Hence why they're in therapy. They're still having symptoms and problems.
Yeah, so there may not be an everyday emotional response, but it could be coming out in other ways. But then when you take them back specifically and make them focus on it.
Yeah, and sometimes like chronic pain in the body can be just from life stress. Where people, like, they're burnt out, they're running a business, they've got young kids, they're on the treadmill for months, they're not sleeping great, and they're getting aches and pains in their body. They're getting back pain, like it's manifesting that way. And by downregulating that stress, and maybe sometimes some lifestyle changes, the pain can reduce and then even disappear. Because pain's a signal, remember, it's telling us something, be it physical or emotional. It's about listening to the signals.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, pain is fascinating to work with, and it's amazing when you clear chronic pain for someone. Yeah, they do think it's like a miracle when it happens. And pain's a big stressor in itself. When someone's had pain for a long time, that can traumatize you. Yeah. Trauma begets trauma. That's why it's so important to clear it, because it's like a negative spiral. People end up developing more symptoms and more issues if it's not addressed.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Yeah, Andrea, go ahead.
So you explained to us a bit about how it works in the brain with anxiety and stuff. Do you do that every time with a client? Explain like in more technical terms, or is it just because with hypnotherapy, a lot of the work we do in the pre-talk. I mean, for me, sometimes the hypnosis is just the last bit of the transformation process.
Yeah.
So how technical do you explain what Havening does with the delta waves and
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, I love hypnosis, by the way. For me, hypnosis is all about, it's the power of suggestion. That's the way I see hypnosis. I know it's more than that as well, but for me, it's the power of suggestion. And yeah, sometimes in pre-talks and pre-framing things in hypnosis, like, you're looking to get buy-in, belief, and expectation and build these things up. Like with Havening, you need none of that, because there's no placebo effect happening at all. It's neuroscience. You can certainly do a bit of a pre-talk. You can mention a little bit of the neuroscience, do some psycho-education with them, and that gets buy-in. But most people, like, you say, you know, you're going to stroke your arms and sing a song, like, they're going to be skeptical to some degree unless they've done a bit of research, which often people have done online as well. To answer your question, yes, you can do a bit of a pre-talk. You can talk about past traumas and events that are unresolved start showing up as symptoms and issues. And you can talk a bit about the neuroscience as well, if you want to. So we teach you how to do that, but we keep it pretty short and simple as well. Because the proof's in the pudding. When you do a Havening with someone in the space of, as you can see, minutes, you can get massive shifts. But yeah, it's good sometimes to do a bit of a pre-talk. If or when you're certified, you'd have it on your website as well. Like, I've got like over 100, I think it's 120 5-star Google reviews, and people literally write in them. I went to see Stephen, and yeah, Havening, he did this Havening with me, and I was like, wow, you know, people, you know, that's how it spreads. So if it's on your website as well, people are going to be pre-framed beforehand. So yeah, I find people don't really care what type of therapy you do with them. At the end of the day, they've got a pain, they've got a problem, they want the result. It doesn't matter if it's hypnosis, Havening, tapping, CBT. Once it works, that's what they're most interested in.
Mm-hmm. And Tina?
Yeah, I'm curious about, you were mentioned all these actors and people, and could it also be singers or different kind of flowers? Why did you pick these people and actors?
Yes, it's my repressed ego wanting to be an actor, maybe. Yeah, great question. So when we're working one-to-one, Tina, with someone, we can do a distraction inventory. So, you know, you'd suss out at the start, does the person like music? Do they like art? Or do they watch movies or sports? Then you can use those distractions to personalize it. So if they like movies, if I was working with you, say, I love movies, Stephen, I would say to you, well, Tina, I'm going to call out a movie star. Then you call out one. We'll do a game between us, about 20. So I could say Brad Pitt, you may say Tom Cruise, or it could be sports stars. Sometimes we'll do singers. Sometimes we do places in the world, you know, Paris, the Eiffel Tower, we'll put a landmark to it. Australia, Sydney Opera House. Very distracting. So yes, you can mix it up and be creative and have some fun with it.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have to be careful with distractions. Like if someone comes to you with a fear of drowning, you know, fear of water, you don't necessarily want to imagine walking by the beach. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Just one other quick question. Do you need to anchor it in some way, or is the act in itself anchoring?
Yeah, there's no anchoring. Like you could use Havening as an anchoring, and naturally, like there's already an anchor there from the time we're born. That touch is hardwired into us. Like it's a hardwired anchor right there. It's the same when we're children. Think about when we're children and babies. No one sits and has a conversation with us when we're upset necessarily. People hold you. Babies are held, they're rubbed or hugged. even in life, people who we are very close to when they're upset, we tend to hug them and hold them, and it's all hardwired. So there's a natural anchor already there. But of course, if you're doing this and feeling calmer all the time, you're reinforcing and compounding that as well.
Because I guess the natural question is, how long does that kind of reduce those? I can't get the emotion back right now, but then how long does that last? Does it come back? Do I need to kind of keep doing that?
No,
if it comes
no. This is the point. This is the whole thing. When you clear trauma with Havening, this is very important. What I'm saying here, it's completely and permanently gone. Whatever trauma you clear successfully, it's completely and permanently gone, because you've changed the neurobiological structure of the brain. Those AMP receptors cannot be reinstated from that past memory. That is completely and permanently delinked.
Wow.
Right? So that memory that I think it was Shell earlier mentioned, that's complete and permanent. Now, Linda, when you're doing, say, a few sessions with someone, you can use that to your advantage and say, see that memory, Linda, we worked on last week? Just go back again and try and bring it back. And you'll see clients like literally going, yeah, we can't get it back. It's way over here. The feeling's completely gone. Sometimes they'll start laughing and smiling. They're like, I call it the wow factor. And it gives you you get great buy-in, great rapport with people with it. Yeah, it's complete and permanent.
Love it.
So you can even say to someone, do your absolute best to bring it back. Try your hardest. They will not be able to get it back. That's how effective it is.
Wow.
Thank you.
And that is very powerful when you can do that with clients. And it's great for your business. And they're seeing and feeling the results between the sessions as well. They're more calmer, they're more relaxed. The thing is as well, right, so when you get that depotentiation, any stimuli or cues in their environment, sights, sounds, smells, that was triggering off that trauma, when those stimuli come in again, or cues, it can't trigger it anymore because the pathway is disrupted, it's cleared. So the amygdala doesn't fire anymore.
Any more questions? Guy, good.
Hi, Guy.
Hi. Can I ask for your opinion on one thing?
Sure.
I've been seeing that just recently, Dr. Rudin and others have been discussing whether the lateral eye movement is actually necessary.
Yeah.
What's your thinking?
Yeah, we can achieve the same results with lateral eye movement, but I find it's still effective. It acts also simultaneously as a distraction as well. I've done it both ways. I still like using the eye movement personally. I find it lends to the session. I like when I do live demos to use it as well. It brings a little bit more theatre into it as well, I suppose. But the lateral eye movement I like to keep. I keep it in. Because it produces delta and it also acts as a distraction.
That's my feeling, yes.
Yeah. And a lot of practitioners say that, like, I've literally trained thousands of people in this. And the people I speak to in the community, the eye movement. And I know from doing this, how long now, 14 years or so, eye movement, still use it. I recommend keep using it.
Thank you.
But the thing is, the mistake sometimes people make, to do it too high, that can produce an alpha wave. We want to do lateral for delta.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Guy.
Your next training is on the 10th and 11th of May. You will be...
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll just add the link in the comments so people can go to the page and read all about it. And if they want to register or have any questions, they can let me know. So wonderful. I'm just going to add it into the chat to everyone. There's the link there. So that's the link to the landing page. It's all about the training. By the way, if you decide to enroll, we also give you instant access to the Havening primer that covers all the neuroscience, all the different techniques, and a video training. And I recommend to watch and review that before the training in May, because it gives you a really strong foundation for that practical 2-day event.
Wonderful. And that link is going to be in the show notes on YouTube, in the description, in the comments on Facebook, etc. So if you can't see it, just go look there. Or in the description on Facebook. I'll see how I'll do it. And of course, what we also are promoting with these talks with the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference special is the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. So Stephen will be speaking there along with me and another 30 speakers. So I think it's 32 speakers in total. And Stephen is speaking on Havening once again.
Hypno-Havening.
Hypno-Havening.
Hypno-Havening. So I'm going to be doing a live demonstration where I'm going to be doing it on someone. I'm going to be looking for someone with trauma, some big trauma, small trauma, whatever type of trauma. And we're going to be blending in hypnosis. I actually did a demo like that last year. And the challenge I had someone at a 10, like serious, like sexual abuse trauma and stuff, to drop right down to a 1-0 within one round of the Havening. I saw that was there, yeah. Right, and we're going to be sharing that video actually in the next, I think next week. So I'm going to be doing another one of those, but each demo is always different because you just never know what's going to come up at a live event. So
yeah, exactly. And Andrea's asking, do you teach the Hypno-Havening in the course in May?
Yes, in the second day in the afternoon, we teach something called affirmation havening, and I bring in the hypnosis part of it, then hypnotic suggestion, visualization, and I have some videos you can refer to as well. I give you some bonus videos in terms of marketing your business and how to use Havening with different modalities as well. But in the second day of the training, yeah, we do a live demo, bringing in some hypnosis and NLP as well.
Wonderful. So that sounds amazing. If you can make it to the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, there's still tickets available. You will also find the link to the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference in the notes, in the description, wherever around this video. And if you cannot make that, but you would like to learn more about Havening, then go and see Stephen's website and hopefully take part in the training, because it sounds amazing. And yeah, there's thanks coming in. That was super interesting. Thank you. And it was a much longer session than I thought it would be. So
yeah, it looked like a flew by for me. I know sometimes when you're sitting on the other side of the screen listening to someone on Zoom, it can be tough going. So thank you.
No. It didn't feel long. It was like looking at the clock. It's like, oh my God, did we go that long? But maybe, is there a sort of time distortion as well in Havening?
Well, this is what I mean about the hypnotic nature with these delta waves. It's the same in the training as well. The 2-day training literally flies by. It's intensive in a good way because we're doing demos, we're doing breakout rooms, we're doing the neuroscience part. So it's we cover a huge amount, but it literally zooms by. The other thing I should say as well, if you do something like the Havening training, it's an opportunity, if you have some unresolved stuff, clear it as well, to work on it, because we work on real issues over the 2 days in the demos and the breakout rooms. If people want to, that is, of course. But yeah, we were going, what, an hour and 42 minutes.
1.5 hours, yeah. Yeah, so amazing. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you, everyone, for attending and being there. And I hope to see many of you at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference in Dublin on the 5th and 6th of April. And thank you, Stephen, for joining us and giving us so much amazing information and all of the demo. And we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.